Final Fantasy VII is one of the most historically significant games in gaming history, containing many iconic and memorable scenes and sequences. And one of those iconic sequences is, climbing stairs. Yeah. Here's the context. In an early section of the game, protagonist trio Cloud, Tifa, and Barret are infiltrating the evil Shinra Corporation's main HQ building and need to reach the upper floors. To do so, they are presented with two options: take the elevator or take the stairs.
You have got to be shitting me.
If you take the elevator, you watch some cutscenes, get discovered, fight a few enemies, and casually arrive at your destination in like a couple minutes. If you take the stairs, you have to climb all 59 floors worth of stairs manually. As in, there's no cutscene or automated movement. You need to use your joystick or keyboard and manually control Cloud to walk up all 59 floors worth of stairs. This is a sequence which defies almost every common sense rule of game design because it's stupidly tedious, completely unnecessary, and is borderline painful and punishing to go through. It is, for all intents and purposes, a complete waste of the player's time and could hypothetically be removed from the game without affecting the overall experience. And yet, when the devs at Square Enix created the remake, they not only kept this in, but made it even longer. To put into perspective how mad this is, they committed AAA budget tier 3D models, programming, voice acting, and bug testing to this tomfoolery. This usage of resources had managed to pass through meetings and approval from various departmental leads and management. People had to sign off and approve of spending money on this. That is money and development resources that could hypothetically be spent elsewhere improving other areas of the game, being spent on making 59 floors worth of stairs.
You have got to be shitting me.
And not only that, just think, some poor QA tester had to repeatedly climb these stairs during bug testing to make sure that every last detail was working perfectly. I do not envy that poor QA tester. Now, what motivated the game's designers to create such a ridiculous sequence like this? And more importantly, how in the world did the game designers actually manage to make this entertaining? Now, my opening statement may initially come across as less than helpful. The reason why Final Fantasy VII Remake included these stairs is simple. It was in the original game. The entire selling point of the remake was to be a faithful recreation and reimagining of the original game. So the stair sequence needed to be there, otherwise fans would be upset about it. However, this only kicks the proverbial can down the proverbial road. The question now shifts from why did the remakes have 59 flights of stairs to why did the original games have 59 flights of stairs? And the answer to that is, it's a joke. Or to be specific, it's a very funny joke. But more importantly, it is a joke that's cheap to make. That's the overarching game design topic theme for this video, by the way. Production and budgeting. If we take a look back at the original game, we can see that this whole sequence is actually quite simplistic. It essentially boils down to 4 screens, all nearly identical to each other. It includes 2 simple in-game cutscenes, one partway through where Tifa becomes self-aware about her short skirt.
That's quite big. Impressive.
And one at the end where Barret declares his undying hatred for stairs. And that's all the new, unique assets the sequence needed. The dialogue boxes that spawn utilize the game's existing dialogue system, the music is shared with the rest of the Shinra infiltration sequence, and Tifa and Barret's climbing motions make use of the game's existing movement system and animations. In other words, this joke costs practically nothing to make in comparison to how funny it is. Game creators and designers often have a strong sense of humor. It's practically an unofficial part of the job description. We aim to craft the best possible experience for the player because we find it fun to both make and play games. And making dumb jokes like these is oftentimes part of the fun. However, the reality of game making is that it is very much driven by corporate and business interests. Creators, writers, artists, and designers are there to make something fun, but business executives, managers, and producers are there to make something profitable, which means balancing production and operation costs and expenses. As weird as this sounds, jokes have an ROI, return on investment. To put simply, every part of the game development process is an expense, and every game project has a limited budget, meaning that every addition a developer proposes needs to result in a sufficient return for the overall game experience to justify making that investment. Ultimately, every addition to a game is both money and time being invested, and even if a developer has all the money in the world, they can realistically only spend so much time before a game needs to be shipped out. And of course, there is opportunity cost. Time and money are both limited resources, and choosing to add in one thing means sacrificing the opportunity to use those resources to add in something else. As a result, big, expensive set pieces like cutscenes, voice acting, or boss fights need to substantially contribute to either the player's game experience or monetization to justify the time and monetary expenses involved in making them. And jokes are the same. If there is a big funny joke in a game, it is often made so economically. Like, somebody cracks a voice joke line in a cutscene that a player is guaranteed to see as part of a plot.
I might have done
A
that.
character may have a goofy animation which gets reused later as either a special move or as a recurring gag. A boss may have hilarious joke elements but they serve as a boss fight for the game, and so on and so forth. Jokes like these cost money to make, and management wants to ensure they get a laugh out of as many players as possible so that they get their money's worth for making these jokes. And if the joke isn't funny, then that ends up being a waste of developer resources, or worse still, result in a negative experience for the player. Looking at you, Persona series. Then there's the reverse, the cheap low-budget jokes. Silly item descriptions, non-voiced dialogues, goofy references, filler text, and so on. These are parts of the game which management have few financial concerns about because they have a low production cost compared to the big jokes. So developers are given much more freedom to do whatever they want without financial worries. In these cases, it doesn't matter so much if the joke isn't funny, because they cost practically nothing to make anyway, so you may as well shoot your shot. This is why so many games have their optional, less important interactions filled with goofy text. Basically, the cheaper and easier a joke is to make, the more likely it is to be approved by the higher-ups. And really minor stuff like item descriptions aren't even worth their time to examine. And the more expensive a joke is to make, the bigger a return it needs to have for the player in order to justify itself being made. This is what makes the stair climbing sequence in the original Final Fantasy VII work out so well. It's a stupid, simple, optional joke that approximately 50% of players will see as they play through the game, and is funny precisely because it is comically long and drawn out, yet costs extremely few resources to create, making it into a silly gag which had a justifiably good return on investment. And for many years, that was that. But when the time came for the remake, things changed. FF7R was conceived as a high-budget action RPG remake based on the original game, meaning that the stairs could no longer remain as the economically priced gag it was originally conceived as. Thus, the developers had a choice. They could either keep this minor joke in and invest their limited budget resources to have it match the rest of the game, or they could cut it out altogether and save their budget to develop and improve other parts of the game. And this is a no-brainer decision. They chose the former, which is the right option. If the developers removed this joke, could they truly say that this was a faithful remake which captured the spirit of the original game? They turned this formerly low-budget gag into a high-budget comedy routine. Not only are the stairs now way bigger and take much longer to climb in 3D, but the developers added numerous little touches to add into the gag. Partway through the climb, the player's controls become altered and Cloud is prevented from running, only being able to slowly walk up to reflect his exhaustion. This super soldier is getting tired from walking upstairs. The music begins to warp and distort. A floor counter gets added to Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett's overworld UI, which reflects their actual in-game stair climbing positions. Barrett will also suddenly speed up and accelerate past you as he hits his stair climbing high,
think I've got like a stair climber's eye.
Then inexplicably slow down and burn out afterwards. And best of all of the dialogue is now fully voiced, meaning you can listen to the trio bicker like children and watch Barrett die from a heart attack all in real time.
This sucks! I wanna go back!
The sequence is completely hilarious, but it also adds a human element to Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett in one of the silliest ways possible. Many of us will have experienced climbing a giant flight of stairs or incline and hating the entire process at some point in our lives, meaning we can personally, emotionally empathize with and relate to Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett at this very moment in time. It's a brief moment of mundane, normal human struggle and suffering in the middle of what is otherwise a fantastical fictional adventure.
Another day, another struggle. Climbing stairs, so much trouble.
Specifically, it's a brief moment which lasts for 59 floors and approximately 8 to 10 minutes of game time. Good lord, that is a lot of stairs.
This sucks!
But underneath all of this comedic silliness, this was still a gag made with the appropriate production budget values and considerations in mind. In the original game, the odds of a player choosing elevator versus stairs and seeing the sequence would have been approximately 50-50. But by the time of the remake, that has changed. After so many years, Final Fantasy VII's stair gag has become something known within the Final Fantasy player community, meaning that there will be players who will actively choose the stairs in the remake just to see what it's like now. Additionally, the internet had become much more prominent and widely accessible in the modern times compared to back in 1997, when the original game first launched. And the existence of social media platforms such as YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch means that games are now far more visible than ever before. And which parts of games are the most popular to watch on these platforms? The funny parts, of course. A big funny joke is now far more widely shared on the internet compared to the past, which benefits both the game's creators and business executives alike. More people than ever before are able to experience and laugh at the joke which the developers put time, money, and effort into creating. And this in turn drives interest and visibility on social media, which potentially can translate into game sales and actual financial returns. In practice, the choice between elevator versus stairs is no longer a 50-50. It has now shifted significantly in favor of the stairs. And even if players didn't choose the stairs, they can still watch streamers and let's players go through it on Twitch and YouTube and laugh along the way. In other words, the return on investment for this joke is now much higher in the remakes than the original, and the opportunity cost for a player not seeing it has now become significantly lower as well. As silly as this statement may sound, high-budget stairs have become a financially reasonable investment, and the proposal for their addition could thus be realistically argued for, justified, and pass approval during meetings. It all sounds utterly ridiculous, and it kinda is. But that's how business people see games. Even if they are good-natured and willing to indulge in humor for the betterment of the game, they still need to do their job of managing their game's project's expenses and profitability. Underneath all of these over-the-top anime shenanigans, Final Fantasy VII was ultimately a rather goofy game. And this staircase gag is one of many strange and funny jokes which gave the original game its charm and which were magnificently upscaled in the remake. But while jokes are all fun and games as players, there's a surprising amount that needs to get considered behind the scenes when crafting and implementing them. I personally look forward to seeing what other silliness Final Fantasy VII Remake will continue to bring us in future, and I hope you do as well. Also, congratulations, you've just spent approximately 10 to 15 minutes of your life listening to a man on the internet talk about stairs. I hope you're pleased with yourself. Happy April Fools.
The end.